Welcome back to another episode of Sideline and Punchlines with your hosts, Bowen and Mark. Easy. Episode number 6. Let's go. Super excited, man. A whole bunch of action happened over the weekend. You know, we had the Super Bowl, of course. NBA trade deadline happened. So we're just ready to dive in. Mark, what do you got for us over the Super Bowl?
Yeah, for the Super Bowl, like you said, we're going to start off with some NFL and get into the NBA. But yeah, starting off, Bone, what are your thoughts and opinions on Super Bowl 60? What happened to the Patriots, man? What happened to Drake May? Not the best postseason run for him. And does his postseason performance prove voters got it right as far as Stafford winning MVP?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think voters definitely had it right. Don't get me wrong. The kid had a hell of a year, right? It was a great run. But that's what comes with, young, inexperienced quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, they make mistakes. They go through the bumps and the bruises of things. So, while, he didn't obviously win MVP, but the fact that he was a candidate, he gets to add that to his resume. And he also gets to use that as fuel to the fire, right? It's something to shoot for, keep as, motivation and a goal of his in the future. The Super Bowl, though, it wasn't an outstanding game, really, that really drew me. But, at the same time, it was the Super Bowl. We got to see some great action, off on the sidelines. I mean, Stephon Diggs, when he was going to catch and what's his name, shoved him. Right. So there was some great, little moments that happened, like, outside of the game while the game was being played.
Yeah.
But as far as, them being in contention next year, we still have time to see. I like Darnold. I like Drake May. I don't think, those two, though, are the guys that really, left their presence on the football field, hence the reason why Kenneth Walker, right? What did he win, Mark?
Yeah, he won the Super Bowl MVP.
Right? And
rightfully
so, rightfully so, right? And so I think, that goes to show, hey, listen, it is going to take all your men to get you there, right? And so we will see what happens next year, but I like what the Patriots have going for them, and they should feel every right to, hey, we can make it right back. And Seattle as well, but I like the Patriots still going forward.
Yeah. My thoughts on the Super Bowl, I thought it was a lot like last year's. Huge defensive performance from the Seahawks. They had 6 sacks against Drake May. Could have been 7, but there was a penalty called, and then it would have, I think, tied for the most in Super Bowl history. And then, like I said, it reminds me of last year because the Eagles also had 6 sacks on Patrick Mahomes, and it was a lot. It was all 4-man fronts. The Eagles didn't blitz once during that Super Bowl, and they sacked him 6 times, which is remarkable. The Seahawks did blitz, but it was, again, a lot of 4-man front for the Seahawks. And if you can win with 4 guys, it's just, you can't, you're not going to be able to put up an offensive performance that you think you're going to, because they have 4 guys coming after you, and that's it, and they're winning. That just means they have more in the, defensive backfield, more coverage. And like you said, yeah, just made Drake May really uncomfortable. Really young. He's a really young cat. I think he has a bright future ahead of him, but it's not promised that you're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Just ask Dan Marino, one of the greatest ever, and he went one, and I think it was his rookie season. He went one, lost, and he never went back. And so, but then as far as going, what happened to the Patriots, kind of just like what I said, their offensive line just got demolished by a 4-man front. I think the difference is, Sam Darnold didn't play a really well ball game, and that Super Bowl MVP could have gone to a defensive player or just the defense in general if they did that. But
they don't like doing that.
No. And last year, people then would maybe say, well, what about last year? Jalen Hurts played outstanding. And not only that, he played outstanding in his first Super Bowl. It's not like he threw up a duck like Sam Darnold did. He deserved that Super Bowl MVP.
Or
300 total yards, QBR. That was really good. I forget the exact number. And so that's what I would say about that. And then as far as the voters got it right, yeah, I think Stafford definitely deserved to win MVP. Drake May was definitely the runner-up in my opinion. I could see why people maybe thought, that May could have been the MVP. It does make the voters look good that, he then had a bad postseason and struggled against a Seahawk team where Stafford's drive. I mean, I think he had like 7 total touchdowns, no picks against that Seahawks team. And but yeah, I mean, it just is unfortunate that Drake May had as bad as a postseason as he did because, like I said in the previous pods to you, and I think you'll remember, like he got them to the postseason, no doubt, and the defense carried them through the postseason. And then, I mean, Drake May just never seemed to have turned it on. But like we had said, he played hellacious defenses in the postseason. I mean, with the Texans, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Seahawks. I mean, those are all top 10 defenses. So, um, but yeah, I do think the voters got it right.
Yeah, yeah. Real quick though,
Yeah.
so I was watching a segment of Micah Parsons and Miles Garrett, and there was a take that Micah brought up on how they don't like giving the MVP award to defensive players. Do you think there's any truth to that? And if so, how do you fix it?
I mean, yeah, there's got to be truth to it because I can't remember the last defensive MVP. Was it LT Lawrence Taylor? Maybe I don't because I don't think Aaron Donald ever got one. But I'd have to be fact checked. But I mean, if you how do you fix it? You just have to make like a defensive MVP award. Simple as that. You know what I mean?
But they already have Defensive Player of the Year, right?
Yeah, yeah. They have defensive player of the year. But make it just make it MVP. You know what I mean? Just make it, and then I would say just come up with a different type of award because I mean these defensive guys definitely need some respect shown their way because we've seen incredible defensive players that have been more than capable of winning MVP. Like I said, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, I think one year definitely deserved an MVP for how bad the Texans were, and Miles Garrett, I think, is an MVP caliber player and definitely could have won MVP this year. I just think they look at the quarterback as the most important position in football, and that's where it mostly goes. I mean, we've seen running backs, but it's mostly QBs.
Yeah, no, no. I was just, kind of curious about that just because, for the simple fact, we do have defensive guys, right, that
Hmm.
don't always get, the spotlight. And, they got up a good point. Like, hey, we have Defensive Player of the Year, and
Yeah.
that's, the MVP for defensive players. But, I like the NBA standpoint where, we had guys like Steve Nash who, he's not going to get you 30 a night, right? He's going to get you some assists. But, he was an all around type of player. And he could still win MVP. Jason Kidds, they could still win MVP. Things like that. I mean, do you think they can integrate it in some way?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's just unfortunate because like Miles Garrett broke the sack record this year, and if that doesn't like, you know what I mean, if that can't win you MVP, then what can? So but yeah, like you said, I could definitely see them implementing that, and I think they should. But moving on, Cowboys placed a franchise tag on Pro Bowl wide receiver George Pickens. Do you like this move for Dallas, or should they have just gave him an extended or a multi-year contract?
Definitely a multi-year contract. I mean, the franchise tag, I don't know, it's so subjective, right? It just depends on what you're looking for. Me personally, I want multi-years contract. That's what I want. I mean, a franchise tag is cool, it's honorable, but don't give it to me if I'm on my way out the door, right? Especially after I had a season, the type of season George Pickens had when CeeDee Lamb went down. Pickens was like the next big thing in Dallas. We had people buying his jersey, celebrating him, treating him like that man died on the cross. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, hold on, it's Pickens. Like, calm down. You
Hmm.
know, but it's just a subjective matter, right? Do I think this makes it any better for his situation? Maybe a little bit, like a hair, but I mean, at the end of the day, are you going to pay him or not? And that comes down to, do you think Jones would pay him? Jerry?
Yeah, no, I mean, this isn't a, I know this isn't the question, but this isn't a surprise to me that this happened because this is how Jerry operates. Um, I would have liked him to get a multi-year contract because I think he deserved it. Um, I know there was a lot of question, and I know there was moments throughout the season where like his character did come into play, the pouting, the whatnot, not able to keep his cool, the, unsportsmanlike penalties, yada, 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 but he did more than enough to get another deal. and he was about to go get another deal because of how he played last season. I mean, that's the whole reason why he played like he did last season, was to get a deal, and to slap a franchise tag on him is just kind of a slap in the face. So yeah, I would have definitely liked to see a multi-year contract go his way. The young man deserved it. I remember having a conversation with our homie at the
Hmm.
beginning of the season, and I remember was saying that he wouldn't be able to like live up to that number one wide receiver potential. And I think this was before he got traded to Dallas, and like, no, he just needs a quarterback. You wait and see, like, get him someone that can actually throw the ball, because Pittsburgh didn't have somebody that could throw the ball, and we saw what happened in just 1 year. So, yeah, definitely thought he deserved a multi-year contract. We'll see how this plays out, if he takes it personally and he goes out and decides to ball again next season, or if he just, decides to pout about it. But moving on, does the Clint Kubiak hire for the Raiders, and if people don't know, that was the offense coordinator for the Seahawks. Does his hire for the Raiders keep Max Crosby there, do you think? Or do you still think he will be somewhere else next season? And if so, what team would you like to see him on, or what team would make a good fit in your eyes?
Yeah. Well, I know they've met and they've been in contact, right? And Kubiak has said he's excited to work with them, and Crosby has, also alluded to that. But do I think this coach hire, changed anything for Crosby? Not really. I mean, you have the draft. We could see what moves they still are going to make during this offseason.
Hmm.
But the window's still there for him to leave. Teams are in pursuit of a guy like Crosby. And I know, as soon as the playoffs started, the Bears were one of the first teams that I saw, looking at Crosby as like, oh, he'd be a great fit. We'd love him on our team. Uh, so, I mean, I would love to see him as a Bear. I think he would fit in well there. But it just falls down to, what is Crosby looking for, right? Are you looking to win? Are you looking to be a part of something that you can, build and grow with? Are you looking to be just thrown in a situation where you're expected to win that year?
Right.
It just kind of depends. If that's the case, there's plenty of teams that could use a guy like Crosby. The Bengals, right? We saw what the Rams were doing. I mean, granted, their secondary was more of their problem, but there's a lot of these teams that were high scoring but terrible on defense. So it just depends on what Crosby exactly is looking for. Because what you don't want to do is bring a guy in who is going to be, and I hate to use an NBA reference, but like a Kawhi Leonard, where it's a one and done thing. He shows up, he does what he does, and then now he chooses, right? So it
Hmm.
just depends on truthfully what Crosby is like expecting from a team.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you hit it right on the head there. I don't think he'll end up going anywhere. Um, I would definitely like to see him go somewhere though, just because I'm selfish and I think he would make a great player on the Eagles. Especially because we have, well, especially because I don't know if Jalen Phillips is coming back, and he had a really good year after we signed him from the Miami Dolphins after the trade deadline, or before the trade deadline. And I don't think we can pay him. And that's one of our weak points on our team, is our defense, or not our defensive front, but our edge rushers. But another team I think he would do good for, and I hate to say it, is the Cowboys. I mean, you just kind of said like all these teams. There were some teams that did good on offense.
They were one of them. Yeah, you're right.
As good as they were on offense, they were that bad on defense. Those teams. So I do think he would make a good fit in Dallas. And kind of alluding to your Bengals point, I know the secondary was kind of Dallas's weak point, because they do have Williams and Clark up there on the front. But um, I would definitely like to see him explore. Because do you really think you're going to have success with, in Las Vegas with their track record? And you would hate to see that type of player waste his career and not win. Kind of like the Miles Garrett situation. As good as he is, like, you would love to see him contend. You know what I mean? You want to see those big players in the biggest moments, and unfortunately, you just can't because your franchise is sorry. And but yeah, I mean, hopefully he does explore maybe after this season, because like I said, I don't think he does. But after, we'll see what happens. And then hopefully, because Howie Roseman, GM for the Eagles, he's a big game hunter, man. So he'll go after Max Crosby if he's available. I mean, we went try to go after Miles Garrett, didn't work out. Micah Parsons even came out and said that they were trying to get a deal done for him to go to the Eagles, and then and then the Cowboys actually sent Micah to the Packers. And a part of that trade clause for Micah to go to the Packers was that the Packers cannot trade Micah to the Eagles. I swear to God, look it up.
Oh, what? They can put a contingency in the.
Yep,
Wow. I didn't know
yep,
you could do
that
that.
was part of their
The
deal.
more you know.